Why is every single supposed proof for God video so utterly terrible? Because they're not talking to anyone who might actually care about proof for God. They're only talking to the idiots who already believe it on faith and really don't care. This whole thing is just dumb. But are we really surprised by that? I know I'm not. So let's do this. Let's get back to New Theist one last time because it just keeps getting worse, doesn't it? He's one of the best examples that I've seen lately of the severe mental and emotional problems that the religious tend to have. They just don't give a shit about reality. They just really like what they believe, and they couldn't care less if any of it is true. Because that's pretty much religion for you, right? So let's get back and suffer through this.
That's point number one. Point number two is that, we spend a lot of time being incredulous at the fact that God could possibly exist.
I'm not. This is just projection. As I've said many times before, I don't care if a God exists or if a God does not exist. I care if there is actual evidence to support it either way. I've also been told by the religious that I just don't want God to exist, which is laughably untrue. My wishes and my dreams don't remotely enter into it. A thing is either true or it's not true. And if it's true, and demonstrably so, then it's true, and nothing I have to say about it makes one bit of difference. And if it's not, then it's not. And all the wishful thinking in the world won't change that. What I want doesn't matter any more than what you want does. Reality is what it is. Learn to deal with it.
We're like, but how? God exists and he always existed and there was this eternal thing. Like, how? You just can't wrap your mind around it.
No, what the religious can't understand is that they don't just get to make shit up because they really like the idea. Your emotional reaction to stuff doesn't make that stuff real. The crap that you make up in your head and that sounds good to you, that doesn't mean anything. This is why you need evidence, not bald rationalizations, not wishes and dreams, not faith. And that's all the religious ever have, right? And then they have to just make up all kinds of excuses for why people don't take them seriously. Well, I really like the idea, so it's got to be true. And if you don't agree, then there's something wrong with you. No, you've got that backwards. Your feelings are completely irrelevant. Always have been and always will be. The sooner you get that through your head, the better. You won't look like such an idiot that way, and hey, wouldn't that be nice?
And so you refuse to believe it just on that grounds, or not that you refuse to believe it, but you sort of can't commit to it because of the sheer impossibility of it.
See? What'd I tell you? Lots of excuses and no demonstrable facts anywhere. Just a lunatic trying to rationalize why people don't automatically agree with him. I mean, it can't possibly be his fault, can it? Well, yes. Yes, it can. He doesn't understand the basic reality in which he lives. He thinks that if he wishes real hard, he can change things to an emotionally comforting state, and that is not how this works. And this is why you hear from a Christian perspective all the time. They think that so long as you can delude yourself into thinking that something is true, well, it is. But that's not reality, and these people just don't care. Presupposing that all of the irrational crap in your head must be true doesn't make it true. You actually have to start with demonstrable truth first, and they refuse to do that.
But you know what's impossible? You know what it should really be impossible is our own existence.
And there he goes again. Because we're here. There is a 100% chance that we could exist because here we are. But he can't understand that, or he doesn't like it, so he's going to just make up an explanation that appeals to him on an emotional level, and that is not how rationality works. This is just, I don't get it, therefore God. No, if you don't know, then you don't know. If you can't understand, then you don't understand. You don't just get to yank a comforting explanation out of your asshole and pretend that you've done anything useful. This is all these people are doing. We can't exist? Yeah, okay, prove it. Where is your evidence? Crickets, that's all you're going to get. Or, it seems to me. Yeah, and what did you base that on? My feelings. Yeah, fuck you. Because these people just make themselves look stupid. And maybe they ought to knock that off.
It doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't be possible.
Says who? Because if you go and you ask them that, they won't have an answer. A rational answer, I mean. One justified by facts and evidence. Because these people are really that dumb. And that's sadly not much of a surprise, is it? Yet they're happy to just make these grand, entirely unjustified pronouncements because they really like the idea of it. But they can't explain why it should be true unemotionally. They just really like the idea because then they just get to their imaginary friends, and that's really what they want. But who gives a crap about that if their imaginary friends are not demonstrably real? I mean, other than them, of course. This is why they just make fools of themselves, and they can't figure that out on their own.
And yet we're here.
Yep, here we are. So there has to be a reason for it, and just because you can't imagine it or don't like it, that doesn't stop it from being true. And even if we didn't know why we were here or how we got here, the answer still isn't going to be, God done it, without evidence that it's actually true. And sadly for them, no such evidence exists. They just really like the idea. Well, who the hell cares? I mean, who with a brain?
And so, if we're impossible and we're here, what should that tell you about God?
Nothing, because you just leapt to that conclusion with no corroboratory evidence whatsoever. He just likes the idea. So the hell what? It makes no more sense than saying, what does that tell you about invisible, intangible, human-creating pixies? Not a damn thing, because you haven't provided any evidence that they're real. But they're not interested in thinking about these things rationally or intelligently, are they? They're just making shit up left and right because they really wish it was true. But that doesn't mean anything, does it? You are nowhere remotely close to showing that any God is a rational candidate explanation for anything. You're just making shit up. Knock it off. You're just embarrassing yourself.
Whatever we define God as, the essential reality, it's not any less weird, it's not any more weird, and it's not any more difficult to accept.
And there he proves it once again. You don't just get to define things into existence. You have to have evidence first, and something to study so that you can determine what that demonstrably real thing is actually like. The religious aren't doing that because, they just don't care. Hey, it sounds good to me. Isn't a rational way to go through life? But that's really all they can do, right? So he's just proving how ridiculously irrational he is, and every theist on the planet, they're all doing the exact same thing. You can't just invent a deity out of whole cloth and pretend that it's real. That's not how intelligence works. Which really says something pretty bad about you.
And here's the thing. Because something can't come from nothing.
And that's the final nail in his coffin. This guy is a moron. An uneducated, uninterested, irrational idiot who doesn't know the first thing about the world around him. His beliefs just sound good to him, and because he's not thinking about anything critically or skeptically, he falls for the laughable bullshit and expects everyone else to be just like he is. What the hell is wrong with these people? If anybody knows, let me know down in the comments, because I'd really like to understand, even though I don't think I ever will.
Something always existed.
Says who? Now, I'm not saying that he's wrong, because the universe has always existed, so long as there has been time. We can't speak to what happened before the expansion of the Big Bang, if that has any real meaning, so just making shit up because you really like the sound of it, that doesn't get you anywhere, does it? But to be honest, that's really all he can do, right? These are people who are incapable of admitting that they just don't know, because they really want to know, but wanting doesn't mean that you do. So stop being a dumbass, because it's really not a good look.
So the fact that you exist necessarily means that something eternal exists.
Nope. I exist because my parents fucked. No eternal thing required at all. This is just bald assertion territory, which is positively dumb on its face. It always comes down to, here's something that I don't understand or don't like, therefore, God done it. You mean that thing that you just made up in your head? Yes, but it's real. Trust me, bro. No, I don't think I will. Because seriously, look at this guy. Would you trust him for anything? I know I wouldn't. I wouldn't trust him to wipe his own ass without help. And that's before listening to the bullshit coming out of his mouth, because, I mean, seriously, look at this guy. Not just no, hell no. Enough said.
That's super crazy. Like, that's another one of those things that it's like all you need.
To have you committed? Yeah, that would probably do it. But the religious think that they're the normal ones, and they're wrong. This is really embarrassing, and he's completely blind to that fact, isn't he? They all are. They can't hear the insanity coming out of their own pie holes, but we can. Because if you just change the words around a little bit, substituted God with, I don't know, Bozo the Clown, nobody would take any of this seriously. Probably not even him. He certainly wouldn't if you changed it to Allah or Brahma or whatever. He just really likes the one that he made up on his own, and he doesn't like the other ones because reasons. Why is that? Because he's got problems, doesn't he?
Because the difficulty with God is always sort of believing that he's eternal, right? That's the hardest part, because we say he's uncreated. So he's like, oh, he's always there, whatever that means. And you're like, yeah. And you're like, oh, I just can't wrap my mind around that.
Because it's all made up. That's all it is. God has always been here? How do you know that? What test did you run to determine if any of that is true? Oh, I just really like it. Great. Off to the rubber room with you, because that's not how mature, intelligent, rational adults operate. And of course, that's one more reason that they don't want to talk to us, because we're going to point this stuff out, and they don't want that, do they? So they just sit around and talk to all the other delusional fucks who won't laugh at their stupidity like we will. And we should. Everyone should. No one should be this dumb without consequences. So why are they? I really have no idea.
Well, you don't have to. You're here. Something can't come from nothing.
Which nobody actually thinks except for the religious. Seriously, this is their claim, not ours. They are just projecting their own irrationality onto the non-religious. And it's really getting tiring, isn't it? I know I think so. How about you? It just proves how inherently dishonest these idiots are. As if that's any surprise. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily lying. although probably there are some that are. I mean, apologists almost certainly are. But most people have never bothered to think about any of the stupid crap that they believe because they don't care. It fulfills an emotional need, and therefore, hey, why the hell not, right? But that's not how rational people operate. And then we have to remember that these are not rational people. Sad, isn't it?
You exist, therefore that essential reality we call God always existed.
And this is just more proof what a complete goofball this guy is. Because again, he's just asserting his way to supposed victory, and it doesn't work that way. You don't just get to make up a god because you really like the idea. Yet that's all they're doing, right? I want to understand how things work in a way that is emotionally comforting to me. So I'm just going to yank this ridiculous bullshit out of my own ass and pretend that it's true because that's what I really want to be true. No, that's not what they're really saying because I don't think they're even thinking that deeply about it. But it's pretty much on point, isn't it? It's shit that they've had shoved into their heads from a very young age. They're told not to ask any questions and not to have any doubts. And then you get this idiot. Because they really don't care, do they?
That's it. I mean, even if you don't believe, even from a secular perspective, the fact that you're here means something eternal exists.
No, it doesn't. That's just your claim. This is the epitome of, it seems to me, theology. Hey, sounds good and it gets me where I want to go, so it's just got to be true. Except that is not how the real world works. These people are not remotely concerned. That's why religion is strongest among the stupidest, and sadly, there are a lot of really stupid people out there, right? If we mandated critical thinking courses in every school in the country for the next generation or so, religion would be dying even faster than it already is. And that would be a good thing, wouldn't it?
There's no way around that. That's a non-controversial statement.
Only to the people who already take such nonsense on faith. And again, this is why they don't want to talk to us. This guy isn't making this video for atheists and skeptics. He has no idea what those are, and he's already proven as much. No, this is made, like all religious videos, to allay the fears of the already faithful, because this is all about pandering to the group, not to reality. This is about expressing an identity marker, as Dan McClellan would say. And it really is that stupid, isn't it? Big surprise there.
That's a second really wild thing. The fact that you're here and it's an impossibility. And it's a paradox. And so stop excluding God from being believable based on the premise of it just being wacky.
It's not wacky, it's stupid. He's doing everything wrong that I've already pointed out. He's just asserting answers to questions that he hasn't demonstrated are actually true. Because he just doesn't care. He finds comfort in the God answer, but there's no reason to think that any gods exist. But he doesn't give a damn because, hey, it gives him the emotional feelings that he's after. And reality, well, I guess in his mind, reality can just go fuck itself as far as these morons are concerned. This isn't about reality. It's about comfort. And then they have to make up a bunch of empty claims about how it's really also about reality when it's demonstrably not. It's fifis all the way down. And this guy is too dumb to understand where he's going wrong.
Because your existence is super wacky, and yet we're here. So therefore, God is here. So to me, my little proof to myself is I exist, therefore God exists. Simple as that.
Only if you're absurdly simple-minded, which I think clearly he is. Because all he's doing is what I've been criticizing for years. I don't get it, therefore God. But that means nothing. It's a massive argument from ignorance, and it's hard to find more ignorant people than the religious. And if he was a Muslim, he'd be claiming Allah done it. And if he lived in India, he'd be saying Brahma done it. It really is absurdly stupid when you think about it, which the religious never do, right? I mean, they should, but you just get people like this making complete fools of themselves. Zero rationality, zero skepticism, all stupidity all the time. And this is still not a good thing.
Rationality exists, therefore God exists. Simple as that. It's so easy.
If you know absolutely nothing about rationality, sure. Because they don't want to talk to anyone who does understand how to be rational or ask rational questions. They're too busy talking to other irrational dipshits like themselves because rationality doesn't get you to, therefore God. It gets you nowhere remotely close. The skeptical among us will just point out that they just don't want to talk to us. These are the people who honestly deserve to get downvoted into oblivion, even though they don't do any good. A bunch of people in his comments are just calling him out on his nonsense, and of course, as we all expect, he's just doubling down. Because he doesn't care, and that's pathetic.
And here I was trying to dig into like evolution, and it's like, oh, do I see intelligent design here? Oh, the flagellum. It's like, oh, that couldn't have been random. It's like, who cares about all that stuff? Let science figure that stuff out. You don't need that.
Yeah, thinking am hard. Why bother to think when you can just make shit up and irrationally believe it without any evidence and support? This guy is one of the dumber theists that we've done around here, which is really why I wanted to get to him before the end. Not that we really needed any more proof that the religious are idiots, but this really represents the core of theism, doesn't it? This is what they're mostly like, and I was never able to find anyone significantly better. Some have better command of language, maybe, but none of them have any better understanding of being intelligent, rational, skeptical, or anything of any value. They're not asking any of the questions that they really need to ask. They all just kind of look like doofuses in the end. And that's sad, isn't it?
Just look at yourself. That's all you need to believe in God. Do you believe in your own rationality? Yes, God. Do you believe in your own existence? Yes, God. So that's it. I mean, it's wild. I don't know why I don't know where these arguments were in my 15, 16 years of atheism, just being distracted by the new atheist decoys.
And this is why it's so important to be able to differentiate between the default atheist position, where you just don't have a belief in any gods, but you've never really thought about it at all, and the rational atheist, who not only doesn't believe in any gods, but they know why they don't. You get people like Lee Strobel and J. Warner Wallace, if they were ever atheists at all before they became religious con men. This is the kind of atheist that they were, the default kind who never thought about it once. And that's not really anything to be proud of. I mean, yes, everybody starts out that way, but a lot of us get better. So what the hell is wrong with this lunatic? Well, lack of education, lack of critical thinking skills, and a lack of desire. It's no wonder he became religious, because he's lacking the basic tools to do otherwise.
Distracting us with Big Bang and evolution as if it changed anything, the multiverse as if it changed anything. It changes nothing.
It is what reality is, which is something that he is not remotely concerned with. He just really likes the ideas that he's been brainwashed with, and therefore, hey, it's just gotta be true, even though it makes no sense in reality. This is where the religious go wrong every single time. It's why we have to keep asking, how do you know that? And not accept, because I really like the idea, in response. Because who gives a fuck what you like? God is not the automatic answer to any question that you just can't wrap your head around or which doesn't make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. These people can never think at a level above that. Because holy shit, these people are dumb.
Give them the eternal universe, give them the multiverse, give them evolution being totally random. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Do you believe in rationality? Do you believe in your own existence? If so, God exists and something eternal always existed.
Just believe this shit that I really like, so it's just gotta be true. I mean, seriously, I know I'm repeating myself because I've been doing that for years, but really, what else can I do? My jaw is just hanging open at this guy's stupidity, and I know that he couldn't care less because he's really into the answer for emotional reasons, even if it is complete and total nonsense. It is rationally indefensible. God done it doesn't mean anything until you have evidence for a God first, and he has nothing, as we already know. It doesn't matter what reality says, this makes me feel good inside, and that's all I need. No, you need a rubber room. That's what you need. Anybody else agree? Let me know down in the comments.
What more do you want? I mean, go ahead and talk to this thing then. I don't know. Go ahead and pray. I think that's totally permissible given the circumstances. Thanks for watching.
So he's admitting to his own delusion and just leaning into it. Okay, who's really surprised by that? This is why the religious are such ludicrous jokes. God isn't real because you like the idea. God would only be real if you could provide actual evidence that showed that he was. And nobody in the history of forever has even done that. They've not even tried. Not that the religious care. So I don't even know where to go with this. It seems very disappointing as we wind things down, but you honestly can't reason with the inherently unreasonable, and that's what the religious are. The more extreme their beliefs, the less likely that you can ever get through with intelligent discussion. Because they don't want intelligence. They just want comfort, and that is childish. These really are immature children living in adult bodies who absolutely refuse to grow up. They have no interest whatsoever. They just want to believe, and that demonstrably is utterly pathetic. So, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. This is the kind of person that I run into most often these days, and really why I've stopped engaging with a lot of theists. How do you counter someone who doesn't want to listen? They're just repeating utter nonsense over and over and over again as if it matters, when I think we all know that it doesn't. Between the scam artist apologists and the really stupid theists like this, I've got very little hope for the world. At least religion is dying, but the stupidity isn't going away. In fact, I think it's getting worse. It's just going in different directions. The world needs a logic enema, but I don't think we make them in that size. Maybe we can take up a collection or something. I've got no idea. How about you?